Okay. So let me just tidy something up, or actually add to a previous presentation. Let's do it here. We were talking about the common symbols which both Islam and the King of the North share. And so we don't want to get confused between the two. So can anyone remember any? There was 1, 2, 3. I had to look them up. I couldn't remember them. So don't worry if you can't. Can anyone remember them?
Do you mean church over state? Oh, did you say?
So I just
Oh, and Islam. Excuse me.
You mean like locust?
Good. That's exactly what I mean. So you've got locusts in Revelation 9, but the locusts in Joel 2 is the king of the north, Babylon. Another one from Revelation 9.
Angry horse.
Revelation 16. Good. So these are battle horses, horses prepared unto battle. Yeah, horses prepared unto battle. If you're in battle, you're angry, so you're an angry horse. The onager, the wild Arabian ass. And here you've got chariots and horses and many ships, which refers, in that instance anyway, we don't just say horses represent Islam. These horses in Daniel 11:40 represent the king of the north. And then the last one's Revelation 16. I'll just put it across this way. It was the kings of the east. And that takes a little bit of explaining, but we've done that already. So that's a quick recap. And then I thought of another one, I think. Let me know what you think. If we do the line of 144,000, and the omega, of ancient Israel. Okay, so this is just, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So I'm just going to do it all the way marks. Usually I ask, but I'm just going to fill it in. 1989 is 4 BC. 2001 is 27 AD. Sunday law, 34 AD. Oops, because the gospel goes to the Gentiles and the gospel goes to the world. That's Sunday law under the loud cry. 34 AD. And then we've got 70, no, wrong way around. 70 AD is Daniel 12:1. So I'm looking for input, by the way, when I give you this conclusion, because I only just thought of it, so I'm not too sure. And then you've got Second Advent, which is about C.100 AD, Patmos. Okay, who kills the army of Rome here? Daniel 12:1.
Islam.
Good. So Islam kills, I just put Rome. Or let's put the glorious land. GL. And who kills or who destroys the glorious land here?
To Titus.
Who is Titus? Who is Rome, king of the north? So you can see again, another, so I guess you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 now. 4 times where the king of the north shares a symbol with Islam. Okay, that's all that's just adding on to the previous presentations. Okay, so we've been looking at the shakings. We looked especially at the 2014 shaking, 2014 shaking at the 2014 Sunday law for the priests. And then we tried to make some predictions as to how that's going to repeat in the soon coming Sunday law. And we listed out some things. And the methodology, what methodology did we use? This parable methodology. Was it chiasms, repeat and enlarge? It was compare and contrast. 2014 Sunday law with the Sunday law. This one. What gives me the
Would
right
it
to
be
do that?
repeat and enlarge? Is that what you asked? What methodology?
Yeah, that is what I asked, but I don't think that works quite so well. I don't think you could do repeat and enlarge.
Aren't we watching for all the similar events that happened in 2014, only it's going to be enlarged?
I don't think that's how we do repeat and enlarge.
Okay.
Without going into, otherwise I'll take 20 minutes to go through how repeat and enlarge works.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It's not easy. But for example, in 2012, which affected 2014, and from the beginning, well done. In 2012, Parminder was silenced. He was silenced all the way through, 2014. So I'm saying, in some shape or form, Parminder's going to be silenced, or an attempt to make him silence. We're a line of success. So the attacks on leadership, which I'm talking about, won't work. You're on the wrong side if you're doing that. Okay. So it's alpha to omega. The first Sunday law, 2014. Basically, if you want to know what the last Sunday law looks like, just look at the first Sunday law. So that's what we did. And then I think I even said last time, that's it for that. I'm going to move on to a different subject. And then the subject that I wanted to start getting into was the events at Sunday law. I started writing notes as to what we're expecting to see at the Sunday law. And everything I wrote down was about the shaking at Sunday law. So my mind just keeps going back to that. I can't seem to get away from that. So I'm just going to continue with the shaking at Sunday law. And maybe this will be the last one. Okay, so I didn't intend to do this, but I'm just going to follow on from last time. So this time I thought, instead of looking at 2014, we'll look at 2019, shaking of 2019. Can I use alpha to omega parable methodology to justify that, like I did with 2014? What parable methodology will I use to do this? I'm going to ask Susan. What did you say last time?
You want me to repeat the wrong answer for this one?
Oh, sorry, you said repeat and enlarge. That's not.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. That's my fault, not yours. I'm thinking repeat of history. So I'm going to use repeat of history. Okay, which was an internal doctrine in 1989, like the triple application of prophecy is a repeat of history. Strictly speaking, I don't think the triple application of prophecy is line upon line, because you're not laying out the line of the first woe or the line of the second woe. You're just taking the characteristics and applying them to the third one. So I'm just going to take the characteristics of the shaking of 2019 and apply them to this coming Sunday law. Okay. So I'm going to say repeat of history. And I'm going to use testimonies to ministers 31:1. Testimonies to ministers 31:1. Okay. So it's a famous quote for this movement, but I wanted to add it in here just to qualify the methodology I'm using. Ellen White says, in reviewing our past history, having traveled over every step of advance to our present standing, I can say, praise God. As I see what God has wrought, I'm filled with astonishment and with confidence in Christ as a leader. We have nothing to fear for the future. I'm going to make application. Okay, she's not talking about this, I don't think, but I'm going to make application. We have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and God's teaching in our past history. So we're going to look at the way God led us in 2019. We all survived it. We're all still here. Then we can see how to survive this. And you'll have nothing to fear for the future if you do that. Okay. I'm moving fast because I have to finish on time. I have an appointment immediately after this one. But still interrupt. Still stop me and ask questions. Okay. Question. What was the deception in 2019? What was the deception in 2019?
Cult of personality?
That's a good answer. And what did that personality, freedom, 2020, you might be thinking of false freedom. Linda, good answer. What did that personality go and do? Tell us to do.
Well, he was claiming that what Elder Tess was teaching was half right, half wrong, for one thing.
Right. Was he? Which
Well,
half is wrong? Sorry, when I say 2019, I mean shaking. And then after Germany, last week of August, FFA leaves, and I'm going to say shaking's over. So I mean, in the months lead from, let's just say January 2019, specifically probably February, March, through to say September or end of
So
August.
do you mean that it appeared that he was going along with the message?
It did appear that's quite a good deception, actually. So that's interesting. So you look like you're on the message. I think I'll put that one up there. What was the deception? Running out of room. I'm going to take this off. Do I need it then? Okay, what was the deception? So you look like you're, what should I say, complying? Or I'll just say on the message. You look like you're on the message.
Didn't Elder Jeff preach said that there was a literal close of probation? Isn't that what he believed? November 9th,
There
2019.
was there was various false doctrines still around. I guess my question was so open, you could put that in there. That was a deception. There was lots of things. At midnight, we were meant to get accused of, I never remember the word, going against the government, not treason. I never remember this one. Say again?
Tax evasion?
Tax evasion and
Sedition.
sedition. We used to say sedition, I think, but I think I don't know the difference between sedition and treason. Okay, so we'll move on. I've seen a few. Wrong stream. They were on the wrong stream. Yes, I'm not seeing that as much as a deception. That's just where they look like they're on the message, but they were on the wrong stream. So I guess it's the same thing. So I've already put it up there, so I'll leave that. that we have another choice. Lana, did you mean maybe Theodore's message or something like that? So now we're getting closer. Okay, while you're thinking about that a bit more, if Lana meant the other message, counterfeit message, Theodore, then that's where I was going. Okay, but keep having a think. Basically, I'm looking to present a particular perspective on that. So I'm looking for a very specific answer. But all of those were good answers. Okay, let me just quote, actually, Parminder. I'm going to quote Parminder from A Fresh Look at 9011 in the Light of the Midnight Cry, Part 2. So this is Parminder, March 9th, 2024. March 9, 2024. And it's at 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 30 seconds.
Does it have something to do with Islam striking at the Sunday law? Because they made that prediction too. And I know there's confusion.
You mean
Some
Nashville?
people,
Susan, do you mean Nashville?
well, I don't know if that was 2019, but I know they were doing like literal time predictions. And some people still, there's a confusion. Some people I've heard still say Sunday law Islam's going to strike instead of at the close of probation. So I'm wondering if, plus you brought up Islam and the King of the North, so I'm seeing something there, I guess, but that's all I have.
So FFA, Jeff, always taught that Islam strikes here. And then when Parminder was starting to correct a lot of our doctrines, March 2019, something like that, he said, no, it's here. He went through that study. So you're also right that, I think you said this, some people are still, I'll say, confused that it happens here, okay? But Parminder's never taught that. Parminder has always, I tried to research it, go back over all my notes and screenshots. From everything I remember, Parminder's only ever taught that this is the harbinger and this is the real thing, okay? Hurt and kill. He's never put it there. So I'm thinking, I don't talk to those people that you mentioned, but maybe they're just getting mixed up with what Jeff used to teach and what Parminder used to teach, and just they learned it from Jeff, but they thought they heard Parminder say it. Maybe it's something like that. I'm not too sure. Okay, someone keep an eye on the chat for me, if you will. Can shout out anything in there. Let me read you what Parminder said last month. That we have an internal and external warfare in the USA. So he's saying, I'm picking up on the internal warfare in the USA. Okay, that's what we're doing today. We always knew that was going to happen anyway, by the way. That's not new. The internal struggle in the United States. But now we know what that issue is all about, all the details of it. Okay, so Elder Parminder is saying that this shaking, Sunday law, we know all the details about it now. We always knew it was going to happen, but now we know all the details of it. So what do you think he means by the details of the shaking? What do you think Elder Parminder might mean by these details?
On organization and leadership.
Organization and leadership, we always knew that. When he says we always knew there'd be an internal struggle, that's what we always knew. Because 2014, as we've been doing the last few weeks, was I call it an attack on leadership. I'm going to clarify that soon. But we always knew it would be organization. So what are the details of this internal struggle? If I said we always knew there's going to be 144,000, now we know the details. We always knew there's going to be a second advent. We always knew what it was going to look like. Now we know the details.
When and who?
When and
Now
well,
we
we
know
always knew
who?
when.
Uh-huh.
Now we know. So you're saying who? So we know who. So we've got John, Fred, and whatever. We've got John and Fred. We know who it is. Those are made up names in case there's anyone called John and Fred in the movement. So we know who it is. What else do we need to know? To know all the details. So it's a battle. We're an army under the bloodstained banner of Emmanuel. We're in a battle, internal struggle. We know who. It's a battle, so I'm going to use the word enemy. I'm not trying to be emotive, but we know who's against us. We know who's going to attack us now. What do we need to know? We know when.
How?
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 So we know who it is and what they're going to do. Who and what. Does anyone disagree with that? Too explicit?
Is this where we should be asking, is it Lord I? Am I on that list?
Yes? Okay, if anyone disagrees or has a different idea or just thinks I'm wrong, feel free to let me know. Okay, let me check the chat. I don't know why I'm rushing so much. I'm doing good for time. Okay.
Just
So
a
we think
thought,
maybe, go ahead.
yeah. So we should know because of the past. We should know
Yes.
what we're looking for in the present and future.
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
So
Well, that's what I'm claiming.
if we see the history of this internally, then we should know what is coming again.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example, or two or three witnesses examples. 2019, in, I think it was about March, wasn't it? It was your camp meeting at FFA, and Elder Jeff hands his mantle to Elder Parminder. 6 months later, I think, whatever, count the months, last week of August, he takes it back again. Says, thanks very much, I'll have that back. So I couldn't have told you at the time, but now looking back on it, we were 6 months away from that shaking. So you're so close, you can start to see the details of it. You can see what they're going to do. The mantle was an issue. Again, I could never have predicted that. But looking back, you know that that mantle was an issue 6 months before the shaking, and then at the shaking, at their exit. I use this as an example. We've always known there's going to be a second advent, but now we know the details of it. In other words, we're so close that this waymark here is called time, that formalization. And it gives you the date of the second advent. We're so close that now we know the details. Okay. In fact, you might know the who by then, because you passed Daniel 12:1, and you'll all be sealed, I hope. We'll all be sealed. So you might know the who and the what here too. Then I use another example. I can't remember it. Okay. So I've set myself up now, because now the dynamic for me is difficult. Because what I'm doing now, this is a joint East-West Coast IPR meeting. Parminder said, we know the details because we're so close. And now I'm talking to people in the room. as Christine said, is it I? Is it me? Who now I'm talking to those people about them. So what I could have done is said, this is way too uncomfortable. My heart's actually beating. I could have said, this is way too uncomfortable. I could have ignored it. And then I could have done a presentation today on what I intended, hence at Sunday Law or Pyrrhus or radical feminism, and let you all die. I could have done that. Or I can offend some of you and try to save your lives. So it's not a difficult choice, because if I get to heaven, if I ignore it and I do a presentation on radical feminism and I'll just say, I'm going to let you all die. If I get to heaven, is Jesus going to say, well done, thou good and faithful Bible worker? I gave you this vineyard to look after. And what did you do with it? Completely ignored it. Okay. So, a quick quote. "12 letters and manuscript. 12 letters and manuscript." And it's manuscript 139, 1897, paragraph 12. You also all know this one. Ellen White. What answer shall we make to the ignorant who will say sometime when it's too late? Let me start again, I'm sorry. What answer shall we make to the ignorant who will say sometime when it's too late, and you knew all these things and did not tell us? You did not try to reclaim us, though you knew that we would perish in our sins unless we obeyed the truth. Why were you indifferent? Why did you not urge upon us the things which you knew? Ellen White's telling us to urge this upon you. Why did you not urge upon us the things which you knew? How could you pass us by and not tell us what you knew to be true? Why did you leave us to be lost? Why did you leave us? Oh, why did you leave us to continue in sin? If you were really in earnest, can you stop recording? Why did you leave us to continue in sin? If you were really in earnest, why did you allow us to go on in sin without telling us how we might be saved? This is no idle fancy. It's a most distressing fact. Okay, so I want you to remember, if I offend you, when you make an official complaint to IPR, make sure you put both sides of the story in. Because when TARES make official complaints or unofficial complaints, they don't tell both sides of the story, or they make the complaint out of context. So in other words, if you say, I want to make a complaint against Aaron, he offended me, make sure you also write because he tried to save my life. Okay. Or some people take it out of context, their complaint. They'll say, Aaron did this, Aaron asked me for this or that, and they're not thinking about what they were doing at the time. Okay. Or just before. Okay. I've done that. Moving on. So we had so many shakings. Do you remember in Sacramento in October, Parminder actually threaded all the different shakings? Did he go back to 2001 or something like that? No, it must have been 2004 in the Moravian Church in London. It's the first one I remember anyway. So there's been so many now. that we're getting expert at it, and we can tell what it's going to look like. Okay, so I've been talking about an attack on leadership. I can't spell now. Attack. And that word attack would denote it's very aggressive. Not subtle. I'm just going to accuse you of whatever. I'm going to make these accusations, and I'm going to say they have to be false accusations, because if they're true, I don't want to pick on anyone, so I'll use myself. If you accuse me of something and I have done it and I am in the wrong, then I'm going to go, I'm terribly sorry, I won't do it again. Then I'm not meant to do it again. Probably all of us have done something wrong. I mean leadership. Okay, I know I have. I was told, you've done something wrong. I said, I'm really sorry, I won't do it again. And I think we've all been in that boat. I'll speak for IPR, okay? So doing something wrong, but saying sorry and not doing it again, that's not really an attack. In fact, you should do that. If you see me doing something wrong, you should bring it out. This would be false accusations, and that's aggressive. So if you hear Kathy being attacked publicly with false accusations or something like that, I just say publicly because you'll hear it, then, well, you know where we are already. I mean, just told you. Okay, just a quick qualification. We're looking at 2019. That's 2019. That's 2021. Time check. So what's 2019? Here.
The cross.
Good, well done. So, and you know that they crucified Christ with false accusations, all the things, you know. They lied about him and they put him on the cross. So shaking of 2019, we saw that happen again. What was those false accusations after FFA fell away? Mother and the daughter on some Catholic TV channel. And does anyone even know what I'm talking about?
Mother Angelica or something like that.
Yeah,
I
you mean
thought it
NCR?
was NCR. I'd never heard of it before, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to what Jeff was teaching. But I think you're right. Mother Angelica, maybe she had a daughter, whatever, the daughter was Tess or something like that. So you've got these false accusations. There were accusations against Parminder as well, that I remember, and they were lies, basically. So just to qualify that. Okay, now I think so far I've only used the word attack, but I want to add a softer approach, which is a challenge. Because you can challenge leadership. I'll be sitting across the dinner table, I'll say from Elder Parminder, and you look like you're good friends. And Elder Parminder's nature is just to sit and have a logical, friendly discussion, mature discussion with you about your challenge on his leadership. So what would I be talking about here? We did cover it already a number of times. Anyone? How do you challenge Parminder's leadership? But you're still
In
friends. Here, you
Germany,
can't. Yes. What are you thinking?
when they were asking him, telling him that they might need a new leader.
Yes. So voting. So vote out the leaders. Give us all a chance, or whatever is their argument. I'm not too sure. So you can also challenge leadership. Okay, now this is the final test. So this would be the final deception. So this one could, I shouldn't really have used the word deception, but anyway, this would be more subtle now, okay? With 144,000 about to face our final test, we're meant to be no fools. We're meant to be, I'll get into the mature plant and everything, but anyway, we're meant to be a bit more clever. So this is going to be more subtle, and this, I'm going to say you distrust. Leadership. Okay. So I'm asking, what was the deception in 2019? I haven't forgotten that question, but I'm going to keep moving. Quick question about subtlety. In Sacramento, in October, Parminder said the movement's presently in a shaking. From memory, was anyone surprised by that? Did we all think, yeah, I know that? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Were you surprised to hear it?
I'm usually surprised because I'm like all the way up here, you know, by myself. I don't even know it goes down in Arkansas, you know, through all that time. So yeah, I'm always
Okay. And Lana says she was too. I was. I didn't know that at all. And I think, didn't Elder Parminder even elaborate on that and say, it's people that say they're in the movement, they're still studying. What did he say? But they're saying things like, I don't like women with short hair. Do you remember that? I don't understand all this, that kind of thing. So that's pretty soft. It's nothing, that's what I'm, you know. He's saying it's very subtle. That's what he was saying.
Do you,
And then,
Aaron,
yeah,
do you mean like voicing insinuations that are kind of open-ended in a way, but put doubt in
could
people's
be.
minds?
I guess it could. You'd have to give me either an example or the real story. Probably not here publicly, but for me to really know what you're talking about.
Well, I was just thinking like that statement, even, you know.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not coming right out straight
Yes.
and saying maybe that it's their feeling or they're against it. Instead, they pose it as a statement that kind of, that's what I mean, like kind of insinuates or implies something, which puts doubt in other people's minds or could, right? That's what I was thinking about subtle.
Okay. You're making, I'm fine with that, by the way, I agree. You're making me realize something. The example I just used about Elder Parminder saying, I don't like women with short hair, that's not really distrust of leadership so much, is it? They're basically rejecting the message, but very subtly.
Yes.
So I'll use that point to talk about the subtlety of the shaking now, because it's our last one. We're meant to be quite a refined army right now. Satan has to use very subtle attacks.
Do you mean
But that's
how?
not a good example that I used for distrust of leadership. So apologies for that. But thanks for bringing that out.
And are you meaning that there are people wanting to have a woman leader, not wanting to have a man leader, and seeing that that's true radical feminism?
Well, yes, that would be a very direct and obvious challenge, or challenge to leadership, wouldn't it? Because you're basically saying, Elder Parminder, you shouldn't be the leader, step down. So yes, good example.
I have a thought too, Aaron,
Go ahead.
that these subtleties are in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not overt. So
Okay.
how can it even be seen? And if it's just going on in the mind and it's not out in the open with a direct attack. but yet there's a lot of
Yeah,
doubt going on within the mind.
that's a really good point. That's a
Yeah,
really good point. Yeah. And it fits perfectly with distrust, doesn't it?
absolutely.
We think you're handling things the wrong way. We think we should be given more, whatever. We think we should do this, we think we should do that kind of thing. You've advised us this and that. We don't really think so. Yes, good point.
Yeah, it's being questioned in the mind, but it hasn't been spoken out loud.
Hmm. So when Elder Pominder said this, the quote, that now we know the details, I don't know if anyone even caught it, but for those who did that surprise you? Like I was surprised in October at the worldwide shaking. Or if you didn't catch it when you said it, when I presented it today, did it surprise you? We're basically in a shaking now in America because we're all so nice to each other, which is what you'd expect for the 144,000. We should be nice people, shouldn't we? So did that surprise anyone that we're in a shaking now in America?
Are you talking about the video? You're talking about the video still where there was a comment made about women wearing short hair.
I was talking about that. That was Elder
Oh,
Pominder in Sacramento in October, and he
yeah,
gave that as just an example of someone who's failing with the message, failing the test.
gotcha. Okay, so I just wanted to stay on point.
Okay. So anyway, I don't know if this surprised anyone that we're in a shaking in America now. Let's have a quick look at the chat.
Yes, I am surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, again.
Troy, I didn't know we were in a shaking in America. Exactly. Okay, so more than a few of us, more than one of us anyway.
But just one more point too, Aaron.
Yes.
And from October, when Elder Parmenter spoke about that, the shaking going on, he
Yes.
said that it is, of course, internally, but that people don't leave.
That's true. I remember that. He did say
Yeah,
that.
they're
Yeah.
not leaving because he said they have nowhere to go.
So now you brought up something that we have covered already, but you're absolutely right. This is the formalization. And in one particular model, this is your test. This is the repeating pattern model. And what you're tested on here is this formalization of 2021. So in 2023, in October, if we nail it down, the people that Elder Parminder was talking about are the people that have failed this test, which was radical feminism. So that was the internal doctrine. And they don't leave yet, as you said, but they will leave here. Something has to happen
Exactly.
to drive them out, to offend them, where they actually
Exactly.
leave. And then we've got another model, second model, where there's, I'm going to call it a second shaking, because that's how it seems to me, which is the many overthrown. At Sunday law, something happens, and then they're overthrown afterwards. They leave. Okay, so let's answer. These were all good answers, to be honest. I'm just looking for a very specific one. So what was the deception in 2019? So question, you know this. What is our test at Sunday law? What's the Sunday law test? Obvious.
Equality?
Yes. So the Sunday law test is radical feminism. So what should we be studying now? The test at Sunday law is radical feminism. With this close,
Radical
what should we be?
feminism.
Radical feminism. You take your driving test next week. So close. You should be studying driving. You should be practicing driving, etc., etc. Okay, have a question. Good question. Let me see the replies. Okay, I'll read the question. Is the shaking an attack on individuals' behavior or leadership, or an attack on the message? I'm trying to follow, but I'm not quite getting it.
Oh.
Okay. So the simple answer, which is oversimplified, is both. There's going to be people that fail the message. So you might not, I'll just stick with the same example. You might not understand why women want to have short hair, but you got no problem with all the leaders in the whole world. So that would be failing the message. Or you could be a radical feminist, but you think my behavior is unacceptable, inexcusable. I haven't repented and said sorry, something like that. Does that answer your question? As an individual or as an organization, as IPR, you could say the decisions IPR are making are all wrong, or some of them are wrong, and the way they handle things as a group is bad. So we could deal with that. I guess if it doesn't answer, feel free to speak up. Or if anyone else has any thoughts. Okay, so what was the deception in 2019? What's our test at Sunday Law? It's radical feminism. So what should we be studying now? Radical feminism. It's your life. It's your eternal life. And if, however, whenever you think the Sunday Law is, count those months. Okay, do you want to be studying science when your driving test is, say, next week? Okay. So the deception in 2019, drum roll, where is that? I'm going to put primarily was study 2021. And some of you did say that, Theodore's message, etc. Okay, but I wanted to present it this way to make a point. You're in 2019, in November is your shut door. So Satan wants you to study 2021. You're approaching here. So Satan says, study this, or that's what Satan did. But Satan could have just got you to study anything irrelevant. Could be good. Could be good stuff. 2021 was a true waymark. Okay, so they all studied 2021 and they all fell away. So do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that? They were all developing July nuclear bombs and all of that. They were trying to figure out the date of Panium, etc. They didn't even know how to pass this test. So Satan wants you to not even know how to pass this test by studying something irrelevant. And it can be anything irrelevant. You can go and build your house instead of building the temple. You can go fishing instead of fishing for people. So they were studying Islam because they put Islam at midnight cry. So they were still studying Islam at 2021, Panium. And that's where that nuclear bomb comes in, because that's who they were going to blame for that failed prophecy.
So, Aaron, just to clarify, are you saying we should be studying radical feminism, meaning the Vesper study that Elder tested?
Sure. There's lots that Elder tested on radical feminism. Do you remember she went back into the 1800s and talked about the cartoons of women and how they were depicted? There's lots. So not just Vespers, but Vespers is a great choice, for sure. And don't forget, internal and external events here. So it's not wrong to be reading and keeping an eye and studying the fall of democracy, Donald Trump, the things in media broadcasts that are to do with that. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's also good. That's correct. The only reason I sort of downplayed a bit, I've just realised, maybe subconsciously, is because the fall of democracy, the next dictator, it's not really our test, is it? We already know all that's wrong. We have to be trans-inclusive radical feminists. So that's why I do it in that order. If I was going to prioritize something for my study, I would prioritize radical feminism. Just that's why. Okay, so don't forget, you could be studying good things. You could, it's a good thing to build your own house, and it's a good thing to go fishing. You need somewhere to live, and you need something to eat. But your job, as 144,000, is to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, literal to spiritual, or be fishers of people. So you can be doing good things so long as you're wasting your time. As long as you're wasting your time, you're in this group here. Subtlety, I'll just put it that way. So I thought we'd have a quick look at what Elder Parminder has been presenting most recently. So feel free, if you want, to go to the website, danielandrevelationseminars.com, so you can follow along. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I've got. So most recently, I'll do it in reverse chronological order. Most recently, I think this is what Parminder has been presenting. So the last thing he presented on was radical feminism. I think it's compare and contrast to liberal feminism. So radical feminism and liberal feminism. So before that, the threefold union. Does that happen at Sunday Law? Is that relevant? So that's relevant. As I said, it's not wrong to study external events at Sunday Law. That's a good thing.
Actually, what Elder Parminder presented last was the hope of glory and the mark of the beast at the midnight watch. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got that way down the list. I don't know why. Okay. So let's got to change it all around now. 1, the mark of the beast. That would be 2. That would be 3. So I probably messed up the order. So you can keep an eye on the threefold union. And then the 3 structures that you can test the message with. So I'll put the 3 structures. Remember them? What were they? 3 structures you can overlay on a message. What models are they?
Carol
The
had the
Go
Agriculture.
ahead. Yeah, agricultural, the three angels, wasn't it? And the 7 steps of salvation.
Yes. So you do all of them on a line, and you put them all in order, and they all match up. That's how he said you can test if a message is true. So, yeah, okay. And basically, in 2019, as you all pointed out, they fell for a fake message, a counterfeit message. So the way I'm understanding this is how you don't fall for a counterfeit message. Because I think that will also cause a separation. It's not just attacks or challenges or distrust of organization or leadership. There's another falling away because of counterfeit messages or message. And that's what we know from all the past shakings. Where am I? Oh, yeah. And I've got the mark of the beast and the seal of God here. Is that correct, if anyone's in that website? I've probably got that wrong. Mark of the beast and the seal of God. Oh, okay. I think what I've done now is switch to media broadcast. We've got what Donald Trump would do in his second term. again, it's good to study the fall of democracy and what happens at the Sunday law. Were you going to say something? "2024 risks, media broadcast." And then before that, it was organization and leadership. I think that was France and Germany, probably. I'll put leadership. And then something else that's still good to study is Islam. Okay, Islam kills the army of Rome still in the future. True, that was this one. A fresh look at 9/11 in the light of the Midnight Cry. So it's still good to go over Islam. And then there's other things as well, which are all on point. I've got here people studying abortion, women's health, women's rights, history of feminism, biases, how our mind works. I think Jackie mentioned that, how these subtle things, distrust, can be going on in our minds. So we need to understand how the mind works, study human bias, and Parminder presents a lot, or has presented a lot on the mind, fast brain, slow brain, etc. By the way, those that I just mentioned, abortion, women's health, women's rights, history of feminism, biases, notice it's not parable methodology, but that's still fine. You're going to be going over Vespers, I think someone said. And it's not full of parable methodology. It's just good old research. You could be doing a project for a worldly university, and you'd have to do the same if you were going to research men's rights movement or modern atheism or anything like that. And that's all good. If you're going to just research abortion, you would do that and present it. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing to do.
So women's health
Questions?
issues falls under those.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. That's a good thing to study and to present. And you don't have to wrestle with parable methodology, which is extremely difficult, because it's just good old research. That's fine. Elder Tess has done that, presented just good old research. Let's say something. Okay. So you mentioned the message. So there's more than one message out there now about what we think, what they think is going to happen at Sunday morning, from different people. So there's various predictions about what's going to happen at Sunday law. I'm just throwing this out there. What do you think will happen to the movement if those predictions don't happen? So someone's
Do you mean like
predicting
Trump not being elected, or what are you saying? What are you referring to?
Let's say someone is teaching Trump will be elected. Okay. Thinking of referencing a real study that's out there, but I better not. Let's say someone is saying categorically, I've predicted Trump will be elected, and then he isn't. So the person that was married to that, taught it, presented it, what are they going to do? In 2019, when Theodore said a nuclear bomb goes off at Panion, did he say, sorry, got it wrong? False methodology, false conclusion. We need to go back to Elder Tess. So that's what you're meant to do. But we all know human nature. We're talking about tears. Most people stick to their guns, stick to their message, say whatever excuses they make. Do you know? I know this because I saw it firsthand. See what Theodore wrote. He said that he was raised up to predict false predictions. Then he said, just like in the Millerites' time, because on August the 11th, 1840, nothing happened. Stuff like that. So they just go get worse. Jeff didn't do that. Jeff split from Theodore, just sat on his own. I don't know what he did, but I'm just saying, he didn't come back to this movement. I don't know if he went back to the Adventist church. So people don't just say, sorry, I got it wrong. Forgive me and I'll repent. You stick with it. So if you're predicting, we said what? That Trump will definitely win. You've made a whole presentation and a study on it. And then he doesn't win, I think someone's going to say, well, that's not the Sunday law. Sunday law is whatever happens a year or 2 or 3 later, some big event or something. I think that's what would happen. So when that happens, we split over doctrine, false doctrine, which came up earlier. How many tips? We've got everything being thrown at us right now. What do you expect? Any thoughts?
Yes, Aaron, can you hear me?
Oh,
Go ahead.
This is Manuel.
Hey.
Regarding organization.
Sorry, can you turn off one of the mics in your room?
Excuse me, let me get away from it. I'm going to be very careful because we have an audience that is very interested in knowing all the facts. And my understanding, when that vote was taken in Germany, is that the people in the audience and all around the world, because in that day a vote was taken, and whether we want it or not, we understand it or not, the call was for everybody. So I raised my hand in favor of Elder Parminder being the head and the one that makes the calls to appoint leadership under his level. And I have heard a little twist that the people is against leadership in general. My understanding is that people don't want Elder Parmenter in that position that he has, and the reason why I stress this is because in the past in the Bible we had the judges, and he is performing the position of a judge. What I mean is that there is a theocracy in the movement, and he is the one that is being led by God to appoint people. The people might be right or the people might be wrong, but anyway, it's God's God's that is leading. So the little twist that I have is that people is against leadership all around the world at a different levels, and that is not right. The people that might be against Elder Parminder is those that are in position of leadership, that they want to be taken into consideration to make the calls. And so I'll stop right there. Maybe if I am wrong, you correct me, please, because you're my friend. Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, my friend. So I won't comment on that if that's okay. I think it would take a little bit of discussion to figure out the point you're making. Is that okay? Okay. So question, how does God know sin will not rise up a second time? Why does God know sin will not rise up a second time? Why won't it? So how does God know that when all those Sunday keepers that were burned at the stake, the ones that go to heaven, how does God know that they're going to accept Sabbath? Surely they were indoctrinated with Sunday. Say 100 of them go to heaven. How does he know? How does God know? Apologies, that one is not going to stick to Sunday? With other examples. So why does sin not rise up a second time? New hearts, yeah. So what aspect of our new heart? Is it because now we eat apples instead of cheese? We've got a new heart. What aspect of that heart?
Seeing the results of thousands of years of sin.
You don't think Sunday is a sin?
Mm.
Can't just write hearts and minds. Be more specific. So everyone's been tested. And so God knows who they can trust, who's going to obey. It's quite simple, really, because we already know the disobedient, they don't go to heaven. So if you, let's do this again, we've done this before. You can put Elder Parminder here, baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Second angel's message arrives. Then you've got 2009, not on this line. 25 hours of video on 2520 is the increase of knowledge. And then you've got also not on this line, 2012, prediction, formalization. 2014, change of leadership. Parminder was meant to be the leader. So by the way, on that note, when we say there was an attack on leadership in 2014, and we mentioned Path of the Just, that's not, I don't want to say it's not technically correct, it's correct, but there was another more serious attack on leadership. And Jeff was meant to step down. Jeff was meant to decrease by the time you get to, I'll say at least 2012, because Jeff didn't understand Parminder's message. But if Elder Jeff had decreased, then Elder Parminder could have correctly increased. So Elder Jeff didn't decrease. So the attack on leadership was also at 2014 as Elder Jeff not stepping down and not changing, not handing over his mantle in 2014 earlier. So what have we got? 2009, 2012, 2014, and then you've got Sunday Law 2E. The 2E goes all the way to the end. So you can thread Parminder uniquely. Can't do this with Elder Jeff or Elder Tess. From the very beginning to the very end of our life. And that's the big one. So when someone just said something about he's the one that God chose, we shouldn't vote him out. and you can prove that. That's not just an opinion because you like him or you think he's wise or something like that. So where was I going? Okay, so if you can't trust Elder Parminder and Elder Parminder's decisions, which means local leadership, if you can't trust the leaders on earth, does God want to bring you to heaven when God tells you actually it's Saturday, 7th day? Because how does God know you're going to trust the leaders in heaven? Because this leader is on earth, he was chosen in heaven by God. So that we know this is we'll call it probationary time, our testing time. So you need to pass the test of trusting leadership, because that came from heaven. I'm kind of stumbling, but do you see my point? I'm not asking you to trust in flesh. Okay, this decision was made in heaven. So it's a little pre-test, or it's a test for when you get to heaven. Are you going to trust the leadership of heaven? That's what I'm trying to say.
That is not always safe, because we may have cult leaders in the movement, and according to what I have heard Elder Parminder, yes, there is cult leaders in the movement. So it is not always safe to trust in leadership. And when I refer to Elder Parminder being the object of that people wanted to vote it out or oust him from the position that he has, I'm not putting the rest of the leaders in at his level or him brought down to the level of the lower leadership. No, we have to make the distinction that he is the head of the movement. He and Elder Test, I'm sorry, not Test. And so inside the movement, we can have other leaders, but they do necessarily have the responsibility for the salvation of the soul of the movement as they do. So a leader in a lower position may not, Jesus told us in the parable of the good shepherd that the good shepherd give his life for his sheep, and the other one, when he sees the problem coming, he runs away. So we just have to observe that, not the behavior, but what they do. For example, with the messages that we hear, they're gonna misconstruct them and make little pieces of other presentations and put them together and present a message that has nothing to do with the message that is intended to, or trivialize their presentations as that they are not solid, they have no power in them, and that is the danger that we may face. And you have to understand that happened in the time of Moses, and it's gonna happen at the end, because the beginning illustrates the end, and this is the movement. So my point is that it is not always safe to trust in leadership. And no, I'm talking about the lower levels. I'm not talking about the department that I emphasize. They are the ones appointed by God, and God shows the best. So we are in good hands if we follow them.
So who appointed the local leaders?
I don't know.
You know,
I don't have that history. I don't have that history. But regardless of who appointed them, remember that he may appoint persons that will not be faithful in their positions. But that
So,
doesn't mean
elders,
that they are not. Mhm.
elders Tess and Parminder appointed local leadership. So actually, you are questioning. And don't get me wrong.
No, I'm
they
not
didn't know-
questioning them. No, Adam. I already know this because even in the 12 disciples, there was one that was a traitor, and
Did,
that
did
can
Jesus choose
happen.
that one?
No, but
No. The
Elder
disciples
Paminda
did.
has chosen people that you may say, you know what? Hey, he appointed that person, and look what happened to her or him. But that doesn't mean that they were not the people that God appointed.
Okay. I think that
And you can always
they get rid of
apostatize.
them.
You can always apostatize. No, Jesus didn't get rid of Judas. And we are not supposed to get rid of the tares. If I am identified as a tare, the reaper is gonna get rid of me at the end of the harvest.
I think that they get rid of them and then the job is done. So it's like even if they appointed someone and like they found out like this person has not been like doing a good job, then they get rid of them and it's
Yes, but
that's it.
what I imply is that Elder Parminder is not gonna predict who is gonna be a faithful servant and who's not. But the call is made by him, and regardless of the outcome, we just have to accept that he is the one that is making the call. If we disagree with that, I think we are in the wrong movement.
So it's much more complex than that. I mentioned I have to finish on time, which is 8 minutes away. It's a lot more complex than that, Manuel. I'll try and do it in 8 minutes. So Elder Parminder and Elder Tess, chosen by God. They're chosen to lead, so they have to appoint all the local leaders. So they do that. Don't forget, they don't have many to choose from. This isn't a big movement. Okay, so they choose the best from what they've got. And then as we do make mistakes along the way, Elders Parminder and Tess, whoever, helps us through them, shows us the errors of our ways, has hours of conversations and meetings, and writing letters and all the sorts, different things that have to be done, tries to work through it rather than just firing us. And then the next person that makes a mistake, the new person that's chosen, fire them. Okay, so that's how it works in a couple of minutes. Attacks, challenges, whatever, it doesn't just happen and then we all just get up and go to work the next day. So Elder Pump. So there could be an investigation, official investigation into any accusations, allegations that we get some might be true. I've already covered that. And then it all gets dealt with properly. And any disciplinary action is taken. If someone has to be removed from their position because it's so bad, then they are. As you know. So you've got to think, how does it look in real life? The elders Tess and Parminder, chosen of God, and God says, there you go, you choose local leaders. How's that going to look in real life? So I did that in a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to close. I've said it before, I'll drill it into your heads, say it again. If you are there at the time of Noah, because as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the second coming. If you were all there in Noah's time, hands up who would get on the ark. Everyone. Everyone here is going to put their hand up and say, I would get on the ark. If I could say, why do you think that? You can say, because I'm on it now. And you are. Then I'm going to say, why would you have? Because the reason you're on it now is different to the days of Noah. Because you can go back, you can compare what Elder Jeff or any of the elders is saying with the Bible and Ellen White. There were no previous prophets or writings before Noah. So you couldn't compare it to past prophets. You couldn't compare it to facts and science, because apparently it had never rained before. So Noah says it's going to rain. You can't prove that he's right. He's in science. Or Google, if you know what I mean. That his message is correct. So the only way you can get on the ark in the correct dispensation for the miracle of the animals, your dispensation, when the call goes out to the first group, would be because you hear the voice of God in the chosen messenger. So long as you stick with Noah, just because you know who he is, you'll survive the flood, the end of the world. So that's my advice to you today. You just stick with the messenger. You stick with Elder Pominda. If you'd have stuck with Elder Pominda through all those shakings, which he threaded in Sacramento, you'd still be here today. Okay, I'll close there. Any last thoughts?
Can we get a copy of your board work?
Sure, I'll take a picture.
Thank you.
If you want to take a screenshot. Well,
Are you going to continue this study next week?
I finished for now. It wouldn't be next week. I think it's once a month I speak when there is not a camp meeting. When there's a camp meeting on the last Sabbath of every month, I just cancel my slot. It depends what happens during the month, perhaps, with this internal issue. I'm not too sure.
So I just had one other question. You were talking about disciplinary action taken. Are you referring to leaders somewhere in the world who are doing this, as far as, wanting Elder Perminder not to be a leader or something? Is it other leaders in the world or just individuals that?
Oh, no. I don't really know about the world. I have no.
Oh no, I meant like the movement throughout the world.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on organizationally.
Is it leaders in different areas of the world, or just lower people?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter.
Mm.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just curious.
Well, there is not a movement without a leader.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. But disciplinary action has been taken in America, so you know what I'm saying is true.
Good study, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Take your time.
Amen. I'll close in prayer. Let's pray. Almighty God in heaven, thank you again for the privilege of working in your vineyard and for the privilege of being counted among the 144,000. As we fast approach our final test, we pray you'll have mercy on us. In Jesus' name.